Hello and welcome to Language Ladder. In this video, we're going to talk about the story, A Letter to God. So we'll be looking at a quick overview of the story, and thereafter we'll analyze the important incidents of the story. So the story that we are going to discuss today is about a farmer called Lencho. Though he was an ordinary man, but he had an extraordinary faith in God. So let's get on with the story and learn more about it.
So let's go through the overview or the summary of the story. As we read through this, do pay attention to the visuals or the pictures because they'll help you visualize the story. So the story has several minor characters, but there are two important characters. Lencho, who is the farmer and the main character of the story, and the postmaster. And there are two important places in the story. One is Lencho's farm and the other is the post office. So we see most of the action in the story taking place over here at these two places. So the first paragraph of the story describes the place where Lencho's house is situated. His house is at the top of a hill from where one can see the river and the fields with ripe corn. The only thing this beautiful landscape needed was some rain. That morning, Lencho has been constantly looking at the sky, hoping to see some sign of rain. Looking at the clouds, he predicts that it will be raining very soon. As predicted by Lencho, it begins to rain while the family was having their dinner. Lencho steps out of the house to feel the raindrops on his body as it gives him immense pleasure. He is also happy to see that now his fields will get the much needed water from the rain. Suddenly, the soft and comforting raindrops turn into hailstones. You can see the hailstones in the picture. They're like small round ice balls. And Lencho's happiness turns into despair. He fears that these hailstones will damage his crop, and he hopes that the hailstorm passes really quickly without causing much damage. However, the hail continues to rain for an hour until it covers everything. The house, the farm, the valley, everything looked white. You can see a sample of that in the picture. Lencho goes out to inspect his corn crop after the hailstorm has passed. To his dismay, the corns were totally destroyed by the hail. He fears that he won't have any corn to sell in the market, and his family will go hungry or will not survive in the absence of any money. Lencho and his family harbor deep-seated belief in God. So he decides to seek help from God. The next Sunday, Lencho writes a letter to God. He explains his predicament or the problem in the letter, that he and his family will not survive in the absence of any money. Next, he asks for 100 pesos from God. Now, what are pesos? That is a Latin American currency. For example, the countries such as Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, Peru, they use this particular currency. So in his letter, Lencho explains that he needs this money to sow his field again and survive until the next crop is ready to be sold in the market. He addresses the letter to God and drops the letter into the mailbox at the post office. The postman at the post office is quite amused to see a letter addressed to God. He shows the letter to the postmaster and both laugh at such a strange letter. However, the postmaster, a good-natured man, is also impressed by Lencho's faith in God. Therefore, he decides to answer Lencho's letter. The postmaster feels that Lencho's faith in God must not be broken. Once he opens the letter, he realizes that to be able to answer the letter, he not only needs ink and paper, but some money too. 100 pesos was a large amount, but the postmaster was determined to help Lencho. So he gives a part of his salary and asks his employees as well as his friends to contribute to this act of charity. The postmaster somehow manages to collect an amount which was a little more than half of the amount that Lencho had asked from God. He puts the money in an envelope addressed to Lencho with a letter which only contained one word, God. The following Sunday, Lencho arrives at the post office a little earlier than usual. The postman hands over the letter to him, while the postmaster looks on with a sense of pride for having done a good deed. But Lencho is not at all surprised to see a letter or reply from God. On the contrary, he gets angry when he counts the money. He feels that God could not have said no to his request or could not have failed to fulfill his request. He decides to write another letter to God. With much difficulty, he manages to pen down his thoughts on the paper. As soon as he drops the letter in the mailbox, the postmaster goes to open it. In the letter, Lencho mentions that he only got 17 pesos and asks God to send him the remaining 30 pesos as well. Lastly, he tells God not to send his money via post because he doesn't trust the employees at the post office and thinks that they might have possibly stolen the missing money from the envelope. So we have looked at the overview of the story. Now let's go through the analysis of the important lines or dialogues from the story. Now this part will particularly help you tackle the questions in the exam. So let's look at the important incidents and dialogues from the story and analyze the same. So the first phrase is promised a good harvest. And the context of this phrase is it appears at the start of the story when the writer describes Lencho's farm, where one can see ripe corns dotted with flowers. And the analysis of this is ripe corns dotted with flowers indicate a good harvest. So that is why promised a good harvest. That is, the crop is ready and ripe to be gathered. A good harvest also promises good reward in terms of money. So looking at the ripe corns in the field, Lencho was hoping to make good profit by selling them in the market. The next line is, these aren't raindrops falling from the sky, they are new coins. And the context, Lencho speaks these lines when it begins to rain. And the analysis, Lencho compares the raindrops with coins here. The rain would provide his field with much needed water, and this will help him get a better harvest. And better harvest will help him earn more money. That is why the raindrops are compared with coins, because they will help him earn more money. The next phrase is, these truly did resemble new silver coins. And another phrase in the same paragraph is frozen pearls. So what are we talking about? So the writer describes the hailstones as silver coins and frozen pearls. So in the previous slide, you read about Lencho describing raindrops as silver coins. But here, the writer describes the hailstones as silver coins and frozen pearls. Let's analyze these lines. Both of these expressions are associated with money, but their use here creates a sense of irony. The hailstones did not really help the harvest. In fact, they destroyed Lencho's corn crop and squashed his hope of making money by selling the harvest in the market. Next is, a plague of locusts would have left more than this. So Lencho says this on seeing the destruction caused by the hailstones when he goes out to inspect the corn crop after the hailstorm has passed. This is what he says when he looks at the field. So what is a locust? Locust is a large insect. It resembles a grasshopper found in hot regions that flies in large numbers and destroys plants and crops. So, a plague of locusts refers to the destruction of the crop caused by insects that attack the farm in large numbers. So, Lencho here feels that the hailstones have caused a greater damage than the plague of locust, and he is extremely dejected and depressed to see his ripe corns and all his hard work being damaged or destroyed by the hailstorm. Next is Lencho showed not the slightest surprise on seeing the money. So when do we see this line? This incident happens just after Lencho receives the letter from God. Let's try and analyze what it means in the story. So Lencho had unwavering faith in God and was sure that God will definitely reply to his letter. So on receiving an envelope from God did not surprise him at all. In fact, he felt disappointed that God didn't send him the entire amount of money that he had asked for. And finally, a bunch of crooks. Now, where do we see this particular phrase? So, we read this particular phrase in the last paragraph of the story, where Lencho refers to the employees at the post office as a bunch of crooks. And why does he call them so? Lencho suspected that the employees at the post office had stolen the remaining 30 pesos from the envelope that God had sent for him. So, this impression of the people working at the post office in Lencho's mind is a little ironic because it was these people and not God who had collected the money to help Lencho.
Thanks for watching our video. If you found this useful, then don't forget to like it and do subscribe to our channel for more updates. In case you have any doubts, questions or suggestions related to the story, feel free to drop them in the comments below.